Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video. Guys, today we're going to do a comparison of Raid versus a new competitor which I play, Eternal Evolution, with the main purpose of almost like, I wonder if Raid do this type of competitor analysis. Yeah, and I used to have to do this quite often in my old role. In fact, I started a new role about 10 years ago where I went into a really established business that was really good at selling to big multi-chain supermarkets, that type of thing. But they had no experience of selling into like a small food service group. And I went and founded a new division for them where they had zero expertise, zero knowledge. And I was able to make a multi-million-pound business. In fact, their most profitable business within 2 years. And the reason why I was able to do it is because I went and had like this competitor analysis view. What does everyone do well? What's the market crying out for? What do I need to do to kind of create my own niche? And then how do we implement it? Yeah, and you kind of follow that through. And then when you're actually a big dog, when you're one of the big guys like Raid is right now, Raid is top dog in this kind of genre. It's like, well, what do we need to do to maintain it? What do we need to do to innovate? What do we need to watch out for in some of the new guys coming along? So this is kind of more angled at that. We're a top dog in Raid Shadow Legends. What's coming along in our competitors that is drawing players? And I'll just show you a couple of kind of interesting graphs here before we get into breaking it down. And I'm going to do like a rating against all of these different areas of the game and perhaps call out where I think one game does something really well and where the other game is either better or worse, whatever. So yeah, let me show you a couple of bits of info. So firstly, Raid Shadow Legends versus Eternal Evolution here in terms of earnings. Yeah, Raid is just basically number one all the time. If not, then they slip to number two. That's their kind of like, that's where they stand, right? That's what they've done for months when I've looked at this. Raid just continuously earn more money than their competitors. It means they're successful, whether we like it or not, whether we agree with their pricing structure, all that stuff. It just means that as a game, as a business, it's going very well. Eternal Evolution went for their global launch about a month ago, and they've come into this kind of role-playing games, which is where Raid sit mainly, and they're sitting just outside top 10. They've been as best as like 11th in that time. And there's big names in this group, you know, AFK Arena, Summoner's War, Marvel Conquest. There's a whole bunch of established games in this group. So yeah, I mean, to get into this sort of level as a fairly small studio in terms of game producer, it's pretty good. I think though, in fairness, like back in the day, PLARIUM was a fairly small game producer who struck gold with Raid. So, you know, it's not like small studios can't do good work, and clearly they are. So, I mean, you can see it as well here. Raid, over its time, 50 million downloads. This is quite interesting to me. Top countries, I knew US and I knew Russia. Didn't realize Brazil would be one of those kind of top regions. It's quite interesting to me. And then in terms of Eternal Evolution, I know this is over 1 million installs now, but 500k plus is where they're ranked. So, you know, insanely small compared to Raid at the moment. And then their top countries, US, France, Thailand. So let's get into some of the stuff I want to look at then. Who wins? I'm just going to rate this out of 5. You guys can kind of give your views down below if you want to. Visuals, champions, best ways to get champions, gear, build diversity, dungeons, the amount of impact a player actually has, your daily boss, which for us Raid players, clan boss, weekly boss, Hydra, the rewards that you get for doing stuff, the market and shop system, PvP, PvP events, the tower or Doom Tower, the friend stroke guild type of interaction. Is there like a community-based thing going on? Can new players catch up to older players? Pay to win mentality, the events that they launch, and then the amount of time you need to take in the game. So these I'm going to rate all out of 5. We're just going to go through one by one and kind of talk through my thoughts. So Raid, visuals. I mean, Raid is by a long way the best game in the market for this type of genre in terms of visuals. Yeah, it started as a mobile game. It does have a PC client now, but it's always had top-notch visuals. Even like your homepage, it's alive. Obviously, you've got the snowball fight right now, but it feels like a PC game, right? You know, if you go into like dungeon screens, you've got this cool map underneath the dungeons. And in fairness, it's only kind of, you know, it's relatively easy stuff to do. It's like a fixed view. So as long as you get the artwork nice, then actually this stuff's not that hard. Probably the harder thing to do is visuals on stuff like on champions. They use proper 3D polygon acted, people to do their abilities and stuff. Every champion that's released, you're like, damn, they've done another cracking job on the visuals. The lighting is sweet. Yeah, the armor style, all of that stuff is top notch in Raid. Okay, this game, Eternal Evolution, is probably the closest I've seen so far. Yeah, the kind of base view, not quite the glory of Raid, but it's not terrible. You're in this kind of quarry. If you to go in and look at their kind of like dungeon view, again, we got this kind of world map, not quite as crisp as Raid. We've just got wording, decent caves, none of those kind of like nice portraits. If you look at the champions, though, the heroes, actually, I think it's a different style of Raid, don't get me wrong, but I think they do a good job. Not quite the kind of same quality, but honestly, like, easily the closest I've seen in terms of like cool visuals within a game. But yeah, it's not up there with the Raid style in terms of, like, Raid basically it's going to be like 5 out of 5. If we look at the different characters in action, which is different generally from like the standing still stuff. So Eternal Evolution, you've got like a proper battle, and the visuals are quite clean. When they do their ults, we get some kind of fancy views and stuff like that. And if we compare that to Raid, when we actually go into a fight, now again, I think Eternal Evolution is the second best that I've seen, but Raid still just generally it's just crisper and feels better. So this is something which Raid have held on to forever. Although for the actual battle, Raid is still a crisper view, but I feel like the interaction between the different characters in the battlefield in Eternal Evolution is actually quite a nice touch. The fact that they move around is quite a nice touch. But yeah, in terms of the scoring, Raid hold their top dog mark. I think Eternal Evolution maybe something like a 3.5. So there's quite a big difference still, even though Eternal Evolution is the second best I've seen in this sort of stuff. The actual champions that you get, I mean, Raid's just so diverse. So, over 600, 700 odd champions now. And all of them with their own unique skills. Probably, it's massive. It's actually a massive, massive game. And they release them on a really regular basis. Eternal Evolution only had the proper launch a month ago. They've got about 60 heroes, all with different type of skill sets. In brackets, a bit like Raid, I guess. You've got like a tank, a vanguard, a summoner. Yeah, so they've got their own kind of styles. Just the sheer depth of champions in Raid would give it a higher score. Also, though, it's a tricky one, right? Because also means it's very difficult to get champions that you want specifically in Raid. So almost the way that they're evolving their game, 10 new champions a month, 5 new champions this month. Eternal Evolution are launching about 2 a month at the moment. Raid have got to be careful that one of their best things is also turning into a real annoyance for someone who's starting the game. Someone like me, I played the game 3 years, I've got a ton of the champions, yeah? When you start a new account, you do not have a ton of the champions. So I'm actually going to downgrade Raid just a half for that, because I feel like long-term player, it's fun. And it's always cool to see what is coming, what's new. Yeah, whereas I think a newer player is kind of like, yeah, but how do I get there? And it's just a long way off. I think Eternal Evolution, good variety of champions. I'd say a 4 out of 5 there. I think Raid still pips it. Ways to get the best champions. Now, this is something where Raid, I think, struggled big time. Big time. So Eternal Evolution, they've got summoning events, right? So in Raid, we get these fusions where you can get some cool champions. Not necessarily the best, but you can get some cool champions, right? Other than that, you've got to use shards. Shards are not that easy to get. And your chance of getting specific champions is just very, very low. Even when there's stuff like a 10 times chance on, like we've got now with Ragash, it's extremely low chance to get the best champions that you want. And the more champions that are added, the worse that gets. Yeah, it just gets worse and worse and worse unless they do a guaranteed event. And at which point, if they do a guaranteed event, it's extremely expensive. You're talking hundreds of dollars if you've got like a standing start. So Eternal Evolution, let's just come out of this. Eternal Evolution, basically you go into a summoning event like this one. Every week they have different, what they call banners. And basically you're guaranteed the SSS hero, their equivalent of a legendary, after 60 summons. Yeah. You need multiple to get a champion really strong in Eternal Evolution. I will say that. So one will not get you to like the equivalent of picking up a brand new Sifi, for example. It's not like that. You do need multiple. But also every time you summon, you get an exchange ticket. And then you can pick up something which gives you a copy. So there's always ways to get the best heroes in Eternal Evolution. But you still got that grind of time to get them evolved to a level which is like top tier. There's other events going on though. I will say it, like I picked up their new hero like a week and a half ago, maybe a week ago, which is Leo here. And I've already got him to Legendary 2. Basically, if I get two more copies of him, I've got him to Immortal, which is strong in this game. Yeah, this is kind of like goldeny color. So he definitely is. It's definitely getting him to a point where he's like top tier. And that's after playing for a week, but throwing resources towards it. Not tons though, honestly. I've not spent any money in this game. They also do these things called Elite Chapters, where the shop is basically a copy of, there'll be some form of SSS. It's not always the one that you want, but there's always ways to get SSS heroes and to upgrade them in Eternal Evolution. I think they've done a really good job of this. The only downside for me for this would be that perhaps it's too easy. Maybe it's too easy to get the best heroes in Eternal Evolution, and therefore you question what's the kind of real draw long term. Yeah, albeit I played for a month and a half, and I've got one legendary near Immortal, so it's probably still a good 7 or 8 month grind before I've got several at that kind of high level. And even then, there's ways to go above that, which I would kind of say is similar to the +4ing now. Just to Immortal, I'd say is like getting a decent legendary booked. To +4ing in Raid is a different level. But I think ways to get champions in Eternal Evolution are 4.5. Ways to get champions in Raid, I'd give it a best of 2. Let's talk about gear then quickly. I won't go into loads of detail here. Gear, Raid have got over 50 different gear sets. Yeah. It's cool in terms of being able to do multiple varieties of builds. In fact, the new Fusion, when I did my kind of showcase of the Rat, I actually did 3 different gear sets showing him different content. Yeah, it's good. I don't like this new upgrade system. I think it's trash. But actual gear in the game is fun. It's got different ways of kind of gearing your champions, which I think is important. Eternal Evolution also has different gear sets, not as complex. So you've got, I don't know, maybe like 15 or so different gear sets that you can pick. And they've still got main stat and substat, so you've still got the RNG role. I'd say, honestly, for a new player starting out, Eternal Evolution is just better because there's less complexity. Raid, for the kind of min-maxer, someone who really wants to push high-end PvP-style games, is just better. So I would say, actually, I would rate them pretty similar. I'd say they're both like a 4 out of 5, but for different reasons. Raid, if you want to go more complex. Eternal Evolution, if you want a good system that enables kind of like a player-friendly system. Build diversity. This is quite an interesting one because the games do it very differently. So Raid have got masteries, which I really like. You know, you can literally change a champion on its head depending on what type of masteries you build out. Obviously, the different gear sets come alongside that. Eternal Evolution do gearing. They have exclusives, which doesn't give you diversity. It just gives you more power. But then they add in 2 other elements for a fight. So they add in a prototype system. Let me show you actually on here. They add in a prototype system which gives you power and enhances different types of heroes. And they add in a commander system which has got an RNG role on it that will give certain champions better skills and certain positions in your team stats. Yeah, and they give you stats as well. And the different commanders empower just with a kind of set skill. I think I prefer the build diversity in Raid just about, But Eternal Evolution actually do a good job. I'd say 4.5 for Raid. 4.5 for Raid, 4 for Eternal Evolution. There's still dungeons then. Both kind of similar, really. Eternal Evolution's the newer game. They've kind of looked at what's good around the board. Raid have got a lot of different dungeons. They've got good diversity of kind of teams that you need to build. I think the 2 new ones they've added in have not really been a good addition for Raid. They've got a very endgame dungeon in Iron Twins, an extremely endgame dungeon in Sand Devil. They add minuscule reward for a lot of effort. But the old school ones, I think, are brilliant. I think they're actually really good content and well thought out. Very different rewards in your dungeons. And yeah, generally really strong. Eternal Evolution have got a very similar kind of setup. You've got almost like a Fire Knight. Basically, you've got, I gain gear here, I gain my prototypes here, I gain my commanders here. So it's all based to that build kind of scenario. They've got less dungeons, but they're good. They are strong. You've then got something like Wasteland, which I guess is an equivalent of another dungeon. Rift Fisher, which is different, but something interesting to do. So I think overall, probably Raid pip it on dungeons. I'd say Raid, if they hadn't released the new ones, it would be a 5, 4.5. I think Eternal Evolution, less to do, but sometimes that's better for people. Maybe a 4. Player impact to a fight. So by this I mean, like, Eternal Evolution ultimately is an idle game. But if you're struggling to beat something, then you can go in and manual their ultimates, which sometimes repositions heroes, sometimes will just kind of hit your abilities where you want to hit them. I'd say there's less impact in Eternal Evolution for what I can do. But also, for a newer player, that's sometimes very good. In Raid, yeah, you kind of need to control your abilities a lot more. And certainly for some dungeon clears, you need to do it on manual. I guess with the addition of, in Raid, AI setup, that's been a massive change to make it, I guess, once you've done the team and you know it works, a more of an idle game. But I think for the PvP aspect, you can't impact a fight in Eternal Evolution at all. Whereas in Raid, definitely can. I think Raid win out there quite comfortably. Okay, let's talk about the daily boss. Clan boss for Raid is one of the best bits of content in the game. Yeah, I think it's awesome. The rewards are good. The fight is good. The diversity of fight is good. I think for Raid, it's always been for me the 5 out of 5 piece of content in the game. For Eternal Evolution, they've actually got a very good system. And in fact, is it better than Raid? Let's go into my guilds. Is it better than Raid? You've got 2 really. You've got this thing, which is just one daily challenge the Lizard. You can put different teams in. You can, I guess this is the godsend for me. Once you've got your team and you know that it works, you can just skip the fight. You don't need to sit there for 25 minutes like you do in Raid and kind of do the fight. The rewards are decent enough. The daily kind of proper guild fight is cool. You've got 4 different bosses which your guild battle down. So if you've got a guild that are kind of together and talking, then you know you might have different people build a different team for different fights. And sorry, Marino Bogdan. Yeah, you might have a different team build, different players build different teams for different parts of the fight. They all need different mechanics. It's a very good system. I think they've done a good job of it. And it's probably it's up there as one of the best bits of content in this game, honestly. In terms of the actual fight, they've all got their own mechanics. You get rewards. It's a PvE piece of content, and it gives you a reward which empowers the equivalent to a Great Hall. This is a massive miss from Raid, right? PvE empowers PvE in Eternal Evolution, whereas PvP empowers PvE in Raid. So the Great Hall kind of growth, maybe I should do it as a separate one, honestly. The daily boss, I'd say Eternal Evolution, 4 out of 5, but it's very good. Let me just include Great Hall here. Raid, I don't like it. Eternal Evolution, I like it a bit better. Okay, weekly boss then. So Raid, we've got the Hydra. Most players that play this game can only do normal, and the entry to normal is extremely tough for most players that play the game. As you get a bit more advanced, you can start to creep up. The boss is very tough. It takes a long time to get your champions ready. Like on my free-to-plays, I'm probably talking 2 or 3 months before I'm really fighting the entry level with any type of hope. And that depends on champion pools. Eternal Evolution, I am 40 days in and I've fought the equivalent of Hydra every single week. They've got a novice, which is very easy to fight, into easy, into normal, into hard, into hell. This is a weekly fight. The rewards you get are summoning tickets, the ones that get you the legendary champions, gear. The gear is I guess, it's like enhanced gear that you're not going to get elsewhere. You can't get it anywhere else. But very early on, you're getting their white gear, which is their kind of top tier gear. So after a month, I was fighting normal and beating up normal, and I was getting myself legendary equipment. It's not even close to me. The fight in Eternal Evolution is 3 different bosses. Each boss needs its own team, but it's very kind of, you still need to think about your teams. You can still retry the fights. I think Eternal Evolution do the weekly boss tons better, better rewards, and a much better fight. The raid, I'd say Hydra 3.5, Eternal Evolution 4.5. The rewards you get generally in raid, I'd say are pretty poor. 2.5, just generally from events and boss fights and that type of stuff. Eternal Evolution is much higher. Some would say that's a negative because you're gonna get the more stuff quicker. You're going to evolve your account more stuff quicker. So let's do new player catch up. In raid, it's horrendous. A new player cannot catch up with someone who's played the game for a long time. Eternal Evolution is much quicker, but there's still an element of pay to win if you want to kind of catch me in a couple of months. So it's better, but these games generally are about longevity of play to catch up. Eternal Evolution, though, do it a ton better. The market and shops. This is somewhere I feel like Raid can just learn. Yeah, Raid have got this marketplace which doesn't scale with levels. It's trash. They've got a bazaar which is kind of locked out depending on where you are. 99% of the player base only ever get bloody bronze rewards. And even when you get the top stuff, it's still average. The best shop Raid have got is the clan shop, which is their newest one they've implemented. And it's better. It's still just okay is how I'd rate Raid shops. Eternal Evolution have got a... Oh. Yeah, I'm getting all my rewards for my last equivalent of Hydra boss. Thank you. Yeah, so Eternal Evolution have got a marketplace or a shop system where you gain stuff which you need to level your characters, your heroes. You can gain summons in the market, albeit it's the weak version. It's like the food summon, so similar to Raid, I guess. You gain stuff to level gear that you've got. You gain gear which is relevant to your level. So I can now buy with diamonds, so it's not like it's a currency I want to spend on this, but I could buy legendary gear from the market. So it evolved as I evolved my account. Raid could learn a lot from that. There's also shops for different areas of the game. Guild shop, so I can buy gear with my guild points. There's an arena shop where I can buy SSS heroes, the legendaries, plus epic heroes. So this is the equivalent of the bazaar, I guess. I can buy summoning tickets. Yeah, it's just tons better. The Pinnacle shop, this is from their PvP event. If you're a top PvP player, then you can pick up some of the best heroes in the game, plus some of the best prototypes, plus summons. I was free to play a month in, and I managed to pick up some extra summons for the best heroes. So next time around, I get better. Advanced Guild Shop is where I buy stuff towards my Great Hall. So EE just smack Raid out the park. Raid, maybe a 1.5, maybe a 2 after the clan shop. EE is a 4. PvP, Raid PvP is better in terms of I can actually do the fights myself and I can pick the team and that sort of stuff. Is, I guess, more complexity of teams. One of the things I love about Eternal Evolution is I could just skip the fight. If I'm not really a PvPer, then I could go in there, set up my 3v3 fight. It's the same type of thing. They got a standard arena and a 3v3. Set your teams. But if I'm not that fussed about watching 3 fights go by, I just skip it. And once I've set my team up, they do what they're going to do. The worst thing about Eternal Evolution is there's nothing for me to control in PvP. It's only like in normal gameplay, I can control where the ultimates are going to go, stuff like that. In PvP, it's pure auto, which means that actually there's no reason to watch the fights. So that is actually a bit of a low point versus Raid. Raid, I can control and win fights I shouldn't win based on my knowledge. But I think both of them are okay, probably 3 out of 3 for different reasons. The PvP events, well, I guess I put this one in there. Raid doesn't have PvP events. They say next year is the year of PvP. This is something I want to call out because this is something which is actually very fun, very cool. They've had Summit Arena in Eternal Evolution this month. And basically, so I think it must be a monthly thing. Basically, you're fighting against the masses at first. You go through a group knockout. You then fight the next stage. Next stage, it's like knocked out, almost like a World Cup. Yeah? And once you're knocked out, you then get to see who's kind of making it through to the final. You can even watch their matches. Yeah, so you can watch their kind of matches on a replay. And also, you can predict the winners. And basically, you bet. Well, you don't bet because you're not losing anything ever. You're predicting winners and you win in-game gems if you predict the right winners. Yeah, so it's just cool. It's just cool. Like it's an extra thing. Like I could look at this, I could be like, well, how have they done against their previous opponents? What's their player power like? You know, do I know them? Am I rooting for someone? And you can kind of predict the winner and try and earn yourself. Actually, this guy literally wins everything on my server. He's on my server. He wins it all. And you got a chance to win some gems along the way. The actual event is brilliant. It's fun. I couldn't get past. I think I got to stage 2 or 3. I got to stage 3. The rewards you get are things like new portrait kind of banners, cool stuff. This is the equivalent of a legendary hero. Yeah, it's just cool. It's a really cool system. I ended up in this group, so I got these type of rewards, summon tickets, etc. It's just really fun. And it's a way, you know, Raid are saying next year's a year of PvP. I don't know how they're going to do it yet because PvP is a mess in Raid. I don't know what they're going to do. But for Raid, it doesn't exist. And, you know, it almost needs to. And I think for Eternal Evolution, could it be better? Yeah, of course it could. But I think 4 out of 5. Let's talk about the tower then. Raid's Doom Tower. I love the content. I think it's fun. It's probably the only tower system I've seen which have got legitimate bosses at these different intervals. Refreshing bosses. If Raid scrapped the year of PvP next year and made it the year of Doom Tower and they brought in more bosses, more rotations, a second Doom Tower, I don't know. I don't think that would be a bad thing for the game. I think what they implemented with Doom Tower, with the new bosses, different rotations, is brilliant. Eternal Evolution do have a tower. They've got this soul mine. They've got the equivalent of Faction Wars attached to it. You get rewards as you progress. It gets harder as you progress. There's no bosses involved. They should, you know, the boss system would be better. Raid kill it, I think, on Doom Tower. And any other game, in fairness, doesn't. Like any other tower game, it's fun to try and like build teams to beat the waves and beat all that stuff. It gets progressively harder, but I feel like Raid just straight up win out. Friends and guilds. So Raid, you pretty much have to have a Discord if you want to discuss things as a guild, as a group. There's nothing going on. You've got this clan chat. Probably never used hardly in any clans. Pretty much people join Discords, right? There's no friend system. There's nothing still. I can't believe there's nothing like that in the game. Obviously, from launch, a game like this, just throwing it in straight away. You've got your friends group. If your friends are active, you gain summons for that. That's the kind of perk, I guess. But they've also got just a kind of general chat. I can send a DM to somebody in the game in a normal chat. I can send messages to my guild, same as Raid, I guess. There's also this kind of Summit Arena chat. Anyway, the chat system is better. Still not brilliant, but it's better in Eternal Evolution because it doesn't really exist in Raid. Maybe a 3. Pay to win. Wonder how people skip to this. Pay to win in Raid has got out. It's actually got outrageous. It was already big, right? Pay to win was already big in Raid. Yeah, you had this diverse group of champions, and you needed good champions to be able to win at the highest level, especially like we're talking high level arena. They then added in empowerment, +4 in people. Nowadays, if you're not a +4, like ultimately not a +4 overall lobby, then you're not winning the top of Plat Arena. Yeah, because it adds such a crazy amount of stats to your champions. So you feel like that's already crazy because to +4 a champion is so hard to do. I played the game 3 years. I'm not even joking, I'm probably 40k deep in Raid Shadow Legends over the years. 30 to 40, I don't know. It's a lot anyway. And I've got 1 +4. I could make a second +4. And we see accounts which are just +4s everywhere on the top tier heroes, top tier champions, right? After that, though, they then add in the blessing system, which is the equivalent of a load more stats, and it's another RNG role. And you're like, damn, that is almost the same pay to win when you're pulling rares like this crap out of your soul stones. It's almost the same level of pay to win as the shards. So you're like, damn. And you see people with +4s and 6, level 6 empowered dudes. So you're like, wow. And then they add in the new dungeon with Gear Ascension as well. And it's just like, I worry for the year of PvP. Because honestly, as I see it right now, the year of PvP will only include 100 players. And the rest of the players will be like, what's it for me? What is it for me? I cannot be involved. So the pay to win in Raid was always high, but I feel like it's getting worse and like an accelerated rate. I really feel that. I worry for that in this game. I worry how far they're pushing it in the last 6 months, honestly. I really do. In Eternal Evolution, there's still pay to win. If you want to upgrade all of your heroes straight away to, the equivalent of the people that are winning everything in my server. Can I show you that? How do I show you it? Not sure how I show you it. Oh, Peak of Glory. Here we go. So this dude, Sloken, I don't know who it is. Sloken is basically doing the world firsts for everything on my server. Yeah. And my server has not been around for that long. So he must be very... All of his heroes are kind of shining. In fact, they're not even top tier. So maybe... I don't know. Anyway, he must be throwing in a fair amount of cash. You can do that in this game. But as a free-to-play, 60 days in, I've got a strong account with some of the strong SSSs. It's definitely still, like all gacha games, I guess, a pay-to-win game. But Raid is absurdly pay-to-win right now. Raid is like a 1. Eternal Evolution maybe like a 3.5. I would say all of the other games that I play actively, Valorant, League of Legends, Hearthstone Battlegrounds, Teamfight Tactics, they're the 4 games that I play outside of Raid and Eternal Evolution, and I play them a lot, or a reasonable amount. None of those games are pay to win at all. Like 0 pay to win. And they're all really successful games. And I guess Raid at the moment is blowing my mind with their kind of pay to win mentality. Eternal Evolution, tons better, and probably one of the best I've seen in this genre. But still, it's a hero collector gotcha. Events in the game, I think events for Raid are very vanilla. Very vanilla. Basically, go and do the stuff that's already in the game. Go and do dungeons. Go and do Firelight. Go and play arena. Go and level artifacts. Yeah, they've got 0 imagination in events. 0. Eternal Evolution actually do a much better job of this. So I've shown you the PvP event. I've got this event here, Rise of Heroes. You're basically fighting different bosses. You get a champion at the end of it. I guess the equivalent of a fusion. You get someone who is going to be fully immortal, which is a high level. You fight the different stages, which are quite comfortable to do. And then after that, you get... Just quickly do the boss. I can now beat up the best boss. Once I've beaten the best boss once, I just need to do... I need to get some more tickets, right? So once I've beaten something once, I can do something called Sweep. And it just gives me the resources. It's like, we know you can already beat it, so we're not going to make you watch it again. It just happens. I can then I need to do another one. I can then go into the boss, and once I've beaten it up once in a one shot, I can then sweep it and I get the rewards. Yeah, so that side of the game really good actually. And once I've done it, complete my events, I can then go into the raffle shop, and you get this kind of RNG raffle ticket system, trying to get the best rewards, and you will get the hero fully maxed by the end of the event. Yeah, if you do it every day and if you spend some diamonds to do it. As I say, I'm fully free to play. I've spent max diamonds every day on that event, and I've got a lot of diamonds still. So in terms of events, they've got that, and then they've also got this Twilight Lands, which is basically, well, it's almost like how good Doom Tower is on Raid. Yeah, you're fighting waves. You then go into like a boss encounter. You beat the boss, and then you go into like a next set. This is basically their most end-game content that they've got. Probably the equivalent of hard Doom Tower, I would say. But it's fun. It's fun. It's a really cool system, and you get really good rewards for doing it. Their events are very good compared to Raid, which I think pretty poor. So the last one then is time spent in the game. I've shown you a bunch of stuff here where you can skip a fight. You can skip the 3v3. You can skip some of the clan boss fights. You can go into the dungeon and say, look, I want to fight it 10 times. Maximum is 10. I want to do this one fight and fight it 10 times, please, and get 10 times the amount of gear. The best we get on Raid is the Super Raid, which is 2 times. Yeah, the clan boss fights. I can skip my clan boss fight in Eternal Evolution. In Raid, I have to sit there, and for most people, that's going to be between 10 minutes and up to half an hour per key, and most people need to do at least 2 or 3 keys. Yeah. Hydra fights can take you a half hour per key, 3 keys a week. My equivalent on Eternal Evolution probably took me to do all of my fights the same, half an hour to do all the fights. Doom Tower, they put now the auto thing in, same is in Eternal Evolution as well. I don't know, I mean, Raid, the arena, I can skip a fight in Eternal Evolution. I have to watch every fight in Raid. Raid, there's 2 things I worry about for Raid. Pay to win and time. Time in Raid is extremely, extremely long. Yeah, if I want to do all the stuff in Raid on a daily basis, just my general grind, not like extra, just a daily grind, you're probably talking a minimum of 4 hours of your time. Probably 4 to 6. Honestly, just to spend my energy, do my clan boss, maybe do a Hydra key, do the Doom Tower for the day, do the arena stuff. Like, it goes on. You don't have to do it all, obviously. But if you want to keep your account moving, you do it all. You're talking 4 hours, maybe 5 hours. Eternal Evolution, to do it all, probably an hour to an hour and a half to do it all. So, there's still time involved, but you want to play the game, of course. So, maybe a 4. Let's add these up. Let's add these bad boys up. 59 score for Raid. 76 for Eternal Evolution. Damn. Have I been unfair to Raid here? Have I been over the top on Eternal Evolution? Maybe. Maybe I'm biased because it's like a honeymoon period new game. I didn't think it was that much higher. I thought it was going to be pretty even. But there you go. What's your views down below? Obviously, you don't necessarily always play Eternal. You might not be playing Eternal Evolution, and that's not what this video was about. It's more of a Raid. Are you looking at what's coming? Are you considering what other games in your genre are doing? And can you please react to some of this stuff? Because especially the last couple here, pay to win, time, new player catch up, I worry for Raid Shadow Legends in the next couple of years. Anyway, I've been Hell Hades. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you later.